It's time for another session of Sheff United Way therapy. Right now, we're in Premier League hell and we hoped for heaven. So let's crack on with podcast number 7. Ollie, how you doing, mate?
So that is by far my favourite so far. Nick, I am loving it. I'm glad to be back and I need the therapy. I think, we're all United fans. We all recognise that we need the therapy. So let's first of all focus on that fantastic rhyme that you've just reminded me I gave you. Just before we were live, Nick said, you gave me the rhyme. You know what? It's the best one so far. So you're very welcome.
Yes. Thank you, mate. And I'm just happy that I got through it without making any mistakes.
That never happens. Just peek behind the curtain. Nick takes 6 or 7 takes on every single intro except this one. So he's getting there at last. How long have you been doing this?
Oh, years and years and years. The thing is, right, Hal's job is reading off like a spreadsheet or a Word doc or whatever like that. I'm terrible at reading and talking. I'm so bad at it, and I've not got any better. I'm probably just best off the dome. So let's crack on with it and talk off the dome. So first and foremost, mate, we've both been on holiday. The last time we spoke, we said, let's not let it go on for too long. Let's make another one really quickly. And then I went on holiday, and then you went on holiday. We're like ships in the night, and we are back. You've had a holiday. You've had a nice break. I've had a nice break. How was yours?
Yes, not bad. Nice and chilled. For those who don't know, I went to the really exotic climes of Droitwich Spa, just near Birmingham. Yeah, I know, that's the face.
What?
We took our dog away because there's a woman we know who's got acres of space, like a really big farm. And so we just take the dog so she can have nice long walks, we can chill, just relax. It's nice to just not be at work. So, yes, not quite as exotic as I think yours was, though, Nick.
It didn't feel exotic, mate, to be honest. I went to
No.
Andalusia or Andalusia. I don't know how you say it. I've been saying Andalusia, and it sounds way better than Andalusia. Actually, they both sound pretty good. It's southern Spain.
They both sound better than Droitwich Spa.
That's true. And Birmingham. Normally, people go to the coast. Birmingham's not the coast.
No, not the coast.
Oh.
We went to the countryside, but not the nice countryside like the Lake District and the Peak District. Just, it's a little bit of grass, a little bit of greenery, big field.
That's
That's
all
all
I
I
need,
needed.
a
I'm
little bit of
fine.
grass.
That's all I need. I'm a simple man. How's Andalusia? I assume, is it the first time you've taken Louis away?
Yeah. And that's why it was not quite paradise. He's just started walking, so literally it's just running after him constantly. So you're laid on the sunbed, all nice and chill. To be fair, I stay out of the sun because of my ginger complexion. But it's constantly running after him, and he's going off into other families, waving to him. All he does is wave now, wave. And unless you ask him to wave, then he does not wave. But no, it was nice to get away. Like you say, nice to get away from work for a little bit. You've got a new job as well, haven't you?
I start it tomorrow, or I assume everybody's watching this on Monday. I've just started it today and I nailed it. So yeah, we'll start it tomorrow. Nerves a little bit, but I'm sure it'll be fine. End of the day, I'm a civil servant, so I'm sure that no matter how bad I am at it, I'll be all right.
Yeah, everyone are bound to be civil with you, aren't they?
No, not from my experience. I've got to go to Oldham on Wednesday, and I'm not expecting that to be civil at all.
All right, okay. Well, I've also started a new job recently as well, which has gone quite good as well.
How long have you been there now? About a month?
Probably just over a month. Yeah, so not too bad. Shout out to Aston Barkley Vehicle Remarketing, absolute legends. I've only just been able to say that because I went from a competitor. So, yeah, it is what it is. I am the traitor. I am the Sol Campbell of the vehicle auctions world.
You see.
Anyway.
I got the same, I've gone, so in mine, so I've been promoted from, I was the head of the DFE education stuff for Leeds. And so I was firmly in Yorkshire and the Humber, and I've just moved to be the regional casework lead for SEND in the Northwest. And so I'm very much being treated as a traitor of abandoning Leeds to go to Manchester. It's not gone down well with everybody, but, got to follow that money, man.
You're not wrong. When people ask you, "Oh, why have you left?" Oh, yeah, all the benefits, all the great benefits, great job. Yeah, let's be honest. More often than not, it's about the money, isn't
It's
it? Because,
always about the money.
but at the end of the day, just being honest, it just makes your life a bit better, doesn't it? It just puts you in a more stable position. So, no, I
It,
would not go against that.
no, it's why we all got to work. And as I was saying to you before we've come live, Nick, I haven't actually started my job yet. I've not been paid for this job yet, and yet I've been spending as if I've been doing this job for 12 months because I've bought myself a PlayStation 5. I've updated my Warhammer collection. For those who don't know, I'm a massive nerd. I've decided that it's time to get carried away until next month when I realize that no matter what the pay rise is, it's not been enough.
Yeah, those people who don't know you're a nerd. You've got a green fist coming through your wall.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there were hints. There were some hints for you guys. We've got the Lego Batman poster. We've got the Hulk fist. We've got the DC
Yeah.
against Marvel characters playing pool. We've got the Joker. You've got a massive pop figure collection. But if you weren't sure, I'm a massive nerd. But I like football, and that's why we're here.
Yes, exactly. That's a great segue to talk about Sheffield United. So let's crack on. The last time we spoke, we've played 3 games since. That was Spurs when I was on holiday. That was Newcastle when I was on a plane. And that was West Ham that, I got a really, really bad stream for. And I saw barely any of it. And Hal had to do the match reaction because, I just didn't see any of it.
Each of those 3 games has been utterly soul destroying in its own different way. Um, Yeah. Fortunately, when Newcastle at home, I managed to run out of the ground, get myself to Manchester in time for a Busted concert. So, it wasn't entirely wasted Saturday.
Is it
Sunday wasn't
busted or
entirely wasted
McBusted?
Sunday. Busted. Oh, Busted are back together. It's the 20-year anniversary tour, Nick. And they've had a #1 album, I'll have you know, this year. So, I'm just saying it. Busted are back, guys.
The the only thing that I know of Busted is that Charlie, whatever his name is, the lead
Simpson.
singer, was on the Masked. Yeah, was on the Masked Singer, wasn't he?
He won it, I think.
And he was, really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he can sing. But it's a mixed. Us busted maniacs, as we like to refer to ourselves, are a
That
little bit.
doesn't work.
I know. To be honest, I don't know what the pun is, and therefore I had to commit to something, Nick. Okay,
There needs to be
we
a
don't
better one.
actually have a name for ourselves. We're just weirdos on the internet who are lonely. So you've got to look at it in different ways. But yeah,
You have
it's a
some
difficult.
weird taste in things.
Yeah, I know. Well, what's fun is that the gig I went to before Busted was a band called Necrogoblicon, which is death metal fronted by a goblin who was a man in full green goblin outfit. So it's a range of taste, Nick, that we like to bring out on the channel. But yeah, Charlie, it's a weird one. He's the reason they broke up originally. He went off to do his own band, and I know betrayal, and we had to convince him to come back. He's here now, but still not sure I've forgiven him for how much time he took from me. Difficult days.
So from Barbie to Busted. Okay, let's talk about Spurs. So this is the only one where we felt like we could probably get something out of. Well, up until 98 minutes, 95
Yeah.
minutes. Can't remember what it was, but I will let you in on a little secret. I went to go and watch the match at a little tiny bar on holiday. I went to the first one. I bought a drink. Louis was all over the place, like running around, tormenting people. And then it got up to like 5 to, was it? No, it wasn't 3. It was was it a 4:30 kickoff? No, I'm thinking
No,
of
it
a
was 3
different
o'clock
one,
on a
aren't I?
Saturday.
3 o'clock, I'm thinking of the Newcastle one, aren't I? Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
must have been like 5 to 3. And the lady says, "Oh, no, we're not putting that game on." Like, are you joking me? So, oh, you might be able to find it at this other bar. So we ran to another bar. We got there. It was all great. It buffered like mad. But I was there. I was loving it. We were defending really well. I'm thinking, well, there's no way we're going to score a goal in hell, but we're defending really well. We may get away with a 0-0 draw. So there's loads of people around, mate. None of them really cared about this game that I was watching. Me not expecting to see us score. Gus Harmer smashes the ball into the bottom corner off the post. I screamed. And I didn't know where that scream came from because I don't think I've ever made that noise in my life. Around a load of old people that did not care about the game at all. Louis was running around, so Charlotte had gone to go and get him, and she heard me scream from miles away like I was getting beaten up severely, and found out that we were 1-0 up. Then it was very, very embarrassing to find out that there was a guy in that bar that was a Spurs fan that was keeping quiet until they scored a goal that was disallowed, and I was like, idiot. And then they went and scored 2 last-minute goals.
Yeah, that was just the pain, because it was like I expected nothing, and then they dare to go and give me hope. Like, I can't believe still now that we didn't at least get a point from that game. Like, I suppose with hindsight, the collapse of conceding one to then immediately concede the second and lose it maybe was a foresight for what was going to come against Newcastle, where the heads have gone and the collapse just completely ruffles through the entire team. But yeah, that one, I didn't... when that happened, I thought, you know what? We are going to be fine this season. We are a good team. This hurts, but we're going to be fine.
I actually tweeted that pretty much that out. I said, we'll be fine. I'm sure I did. And so many people gave me stick. But after that game, yes, we collapsed, but we were playing one of the best teams in the Premier League. I think Spurs will finish top 4. I really do. Yeah. They're playing some great, great football this season. And absolutely love what they're doing. And at the end of the day, if we'd have lost 2-1 in that game, I'd have probably taken that before the game, because I'd have been like, do you know what? That's a good result against a really, really good side. But that collapse, and then going on to lose 8-0 to Newcastle, which I am glad that I only saw a tiny, tiny bit of this game. If I'd have been in the ground, I think I'd have felt a lot different. But I think I was still in holiday mode at the time, so it didn't quite affect me as much as what it probably would have done if I was in the ground. And you know what? I'm one of those people that don't like to leave at all. So I think I'd have sat through the whole lot.
What I would say is I actually thought that United had started that game quite well. I thought for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, we were all right. I thought we were the team that was sort of trying to put a little bit of pressure on. We'd had 2 or 3 shots, which, don't get me wrong, it weren't like Pope had made wonder saves or anything, but we'd at least started with a little bit of intent. What I think did for us was the injustice, I think. And I think this is something United are going to have to address, and address fast. And I think it's the same as what happened against Tottenham, in that we felt as though there shouldn't have been 11 minutes added on. And so when they scored after 9 minutes of added time, bloody hell, we're just being cheated again, aren't we? What chance have we got? Then we go against Newcastle, and he's playing basketball on left wing, and then crosses it in for them to score, and your heads go. And I think every player's head went. And I think at that point, we've got to have some strength of character. We've got to have some strength of our captain, of the other senior players in the squad, of management, of everybody at the club has got to be strong enough to go, okay, we have to come back against that. That's the adversity. We push back against it now. But what we did instead was absolutely collapse to the most pathetic display that I've ever seen from United in all the time I've been watching them since, well, I've been going since the year 2000, and I've never seen United worse than that day. Like, it was embarrassing. We couldn't pass the ball. We couldn't win a header. They just looked like they were going to score every time they went forward, and every defender was to blame. Like, Anel, as an individual, I don't know if we'll see a worse performance than what he did that day. It was so bad. And I think, obviously, they are affected by what happened in the week before, but I think it was more the events that happened on the pitch that threw them off, and it was their inability to react to the fact that they felt as though a refereeing decision had gone against them. And to be honest, my trouble is, obviously, there's been a lot of talk the last 2 weeks and things like that. if we'd lost every game from now until the next international break and we lost them all 1-0, we'd have all gone, you know what? Team's not good enough, but we're competitive. And we're giving our all, and we look like we're in games. And we're only losing by the odd 1 or 2 goals. Fine. We'd all accept that. It's what we expected at the start of the season. Losing 8-0 gets rid of any patience that the fans have got because we're embarrassed, like properly embarrassed. And it's the same for me now in that yesterday losing 2-0 at West Ham, that ain't a disaster. You're losing away from home at a team who've started the season really well. That is no disaster at all. There's no shame in that. But coming after that embarrassment, I can't forgive them for it. Like, they've got to show me something different because right now, I'm just ashamed of what they put out in that game against Newcastle. And you can't get over it until they give you something. And so now acceptable defeats where you're competitive are unacceptable because we've got to do something different. They've really
That's a
annoyed
very,
me.
very, very,
Really annoyed me. You've
yeah,
reopened old wounds, Nick. I've got over
yeah.
this in 2 weeks.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, let's move on because I don't think the fans want us to talk about this either. So we'll move on to West Ham. You did say that it wasn't embarrassing against
No.
West Ham. It really wasn't, but it also didn't fill you with much confidence. I know we had a couple of half decent chances. I know Cameron Archer had a really early one where he hit a snapshot, very, very good block. I think that was destined for the bottom corner. If that goes in, it's a different story. We've had that a lot, though, this season. Obviously, with Spurs, we've just spoken about, if the whistle's blown at 95, 96, 97 minutes, we go and win that game 1-0. That doesn't happen against Newcastle. I know that for certain because the tails are up. If McBurney's header, Jordan Pickford doesn't push it onto the bar and that goes in the back of the net, that's a different story. That's 3 points on the board. There's lots of things, lots of if, buts and coconuts, but at the same time, like, we need to address what's happened on the pitch recently. And I can understand us not being great going forward because really, really good attacking players are hard to come by. They really are. And we have got a couple of decent players going forward, but it's just the way that we're conceding goals, which is the most embarrassing thing. And Luton are starting to pick up points now. Everton started to pick up points. Obviously, they've just lost to Luton. Burnley's the only team, other than us, that don't have a win yet. But arguably, Burnley have had a lot harder games and they've got a nice little run of games where they can try and put a bit of a run together. We don't have that luxury because we've got some tough games other than Fulham, which you can see us go in there and possibly getting a point. I'm not saying that we will do at all, but that's probably the easier one on paper. Man United could be an easier one on paper as well, to be fair, with the way that they're
Yeah,
playing.
that's his next winnable game. Man U at home.
Probably is. That's our only winnable game, other than Man United away.
Oh, yeah, that's 6 points guaranteed. So we just need another 5, and then I'll probably call it quits.
Oh, God. Well, we might as well talk about it right now. Derby County's points record. I have dismissed everybody talking about this because I honestly believe in a lot of the lads. I love Sousa. I love Gus Harmer. I think he's a fantastic footballer. He's not had he's had a couple of mediocre games. He gave the ball away for I think it was their second goal that Souček put away. But I still think he's a fantastic player. I do think Sousa, Cameron Archer, he showed his first game scoring 2 goals. McBurney has probably been one of our best players this season, even though he's missed one of them. He's missed a few of them. He missed some with injury at the start of the season and then got sent off. But McBurney's been fantastic. I think we've got a good first 11 that could stay up, but it's really, really thin. And even the good 11 that we've got are losing games week on week. And I've spoken to a lot of people about this. The last time we were in the Premier League, it took us, I can't remember, 16 or 17 games. I think we won our 17th game against Newcastle. And all that obviously breeds kind of negativity within our club and our players on the pitch and our fan base. But also, there's teams coming to Bramall Lane that's thinking, these haven't beaten anybody. We can't be that team that they beat. And that's what it was last time, in my opinion. This time, we can't let that happen. We need to get that win, or we at least need to get a couple more points on the board, be that draws or a win. because at the moment, 1 point and sitting rock bottom, because we weren't rock bottom, we were out of the bottom three for a while because of our half decent goal
Yeah,
difference. It
we
was
just
still
lost by 1 goal.
minus. Yeah, but we're losing by 1 goal. Exactly. We went toe to toe with Man City. Yeah, they missed a lot of good chances, but we nearly snatched a point off them. We've been very, very competitive in a lot of games, but I'm feeling right now the last 2 games we've not been competitive at all.
No, no, and that's the worry, isn't it? It's negative, but I've had a friend pull together some stats because as a city, it's not been prime Sheffield football at the moment. So we can use this as both our own negativity and as a bit of fun to laugh at the other side because God knows that we need something. So you referenced it before, 2021, when United obviously got relegated. Wednesday also got relegated that season. That was statistically the second worst ever season for Sheffield as a city. Um, we collected, as a city, 0.83 points per game. We only won 23% of our games, and we only scored 0.7 goals per game. Like, that was the second worst season on record for Sheffield as a city. Obviously, this season currently looks a hell of a lot worse than that because neither team have won yet, giving us our win ratio of 0% after, how many have we played between us? About 16? Something
Yeah,
like that.
something like
Yeah.
that.
We've scored, to be fair, 0.63 goals per game scored. That's almost all right. We've conceded 2.25 goals per game, and we're getting an average 0.19 points per game. So, it's terrible. But what's fun is that last season was statistically the best ever season for Sheffield as a city. We've never got more points. We've never scored, never conceded less goals. We've never won more games. And so that's the up and down, is that we've had potentially two of our 4 worst ever seasons in the 20s and our best ever season in the 20s. I don't know what we do about that. I don't know how we change it. I don't know what we can actually do to make it better. Obviously, for United's perspective, we have to enjoy the fact that they're also terrible. From their perspective, they have to enjoy the fact that we are terrible. I don't want to talk about Derby's record, but right now, it feels a bit closer than it did a few weeks ago because I laughed at it. I thought there was no chance. Thought we were much better than that. I still think we are. I still think there is something there, but we've got to find a way to get some controlling games, but also some positivity in the club. We can't let the momentum kill us just like we did last time, because that one we were relegated by sort of 10 games in because we'd not won any and we were just consistently not competitive, losing. And we started last season so similarly to this one, when we were competitive and losing by 1 goal, and it was mistakes. So like Leeds at home, we lost because I think it was Ramsdale just passed ball to their striker with an open net. Like, we were losing games that we were competitive in because we were missing chances and then making a stupid mistake. We did that for the first sort of 5 games. Then we got battered, and then the heads have gone. We've got to find a way to turn that around. And that puts a lot of responsibility on HECKY and his coaching team to try and get the players into a positive mindset.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think if that West Ham game would have been at home with the crowd behind them, I think that might have been a more competitive game. It might not have been. The crowd could have got on the players' backs if we'd have gone 1-0 down or 2-0 down. But away from home, you always feel like in the Premier League, I don't ever see us going into a game in the Premier League away from home thinking we're going to win today,
No.
other than obviously the first season under Chris Wilder in the Premier League, because we seem to pull rabbits out of hats constantly. But I think I think at home, I think we would have kind of galvanized ourselves and would have got behind the team and would have really, really gone for it. I don't feel like against West Ham, we really did that at all. I feel like we had a couple of early chances, and then we probably had a couple of good chances when they'd kind of took the foot off the pedal, because Enel had a header really, really close. Don't get me wrong, the goalkeeper had got up and spread himself really, really well. I don't think there was a way of him getting that head around him, but it's a really, really good chance. We had McBurney headed one that just went wide. I think we had a few others that could have gone for us or dropped better for us. But yeah, it was a pretty easy kind of walk in the park for West Ham, to be honest. And yeah, they've got a lot of games coming up as well. So I saw a West Ham fan on Twitter say that they've got a few games coming up, so that's probably the reason why they took the foot off the gas.
Yeah,
But we don't
I'm glad they
really have.
did.
It was let's talk about Rhian Brewster. That is something that we can talk about right now, something more positive, because the last time Rhian Brewster played a professional game for Sheffield United was October 2022, almost 1 year. That is mental.
What did he do? Pull his hammy and then
Something like that,
just
yeah. I know
run
it's
on and
ridiculous, isn't
on.
it? Yeah, he started the season up front with Illiman, I believe,
Mm.
last season, and because I always remember, I can't remember who it was against, but he kind of pushed someone in the back, and Illiman went through and scored. I remember that at home against Swansea away when Rita Kadra scored that goal. He showed lightning pace and then knocked little old Kyle Norton out of the way. So he had little glimpses last season, and all I want, if Rhian Brewster does not score another goal this season, I'm okay with that. I just want him to have the rest of the season injury free. And I just want him to get back to some sort of form. I know he's never really had that much form for us, but for his career, even
Yeah,
if he moves on after this season,
he
I
needs
just want to
some.
see him get back to something, because hamstrings must be probably the one of the worst injuries players can have, especially players that thrive
Recovery.
on. And I know he's not really, really fast, but every time you run, you must be worried that you're going to pull a hamstring again, because that must be hell thinking. Because that's how Lise Mousset lost all his pace. Because
Michael
every
Owen.
time he kind of ran, he must have been thinking in the back of his mind, I can't run too hard or I'm going to pull a hamstring again.
Yeah, it was same for Michael Owen, weren't it? Where you see it, this kind of injury it ruins players, particularly when they've, so like you say, using their speed. And so I want to see him stay fit. I want to see him get a run of games just to sort of have confidence in his body again. And I think the same for Reece Norrington Davis when he comes back. It's going to be exactly the same kind of recovery and exactly the same kind of concern that he needs to get back playing consistently and get fitness and get confidence back.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, I remember when players broke a leg or something like, you're like, oh, he's out for the rest of the season. He's out for, and actually, a broken leg sometimes is easier to come back
3 months,
from
yeah.
than some of these other injuries. So yeah, it's always sad when you see players get injuries, and obviously there's so many different bones and muscles than there used to be, metatarsals and all sorts. That David Beckham, I think he's the only one that's ever had a metatarsal, to be fair, or at that point did.
Didn't Rooney do it as well afterwards? I seem to remember. I remember Beckham. I think Beckham must have been 2002, but I think Rooney did it for about 2006, maybe 2008, something like that.
Yeah, I think so, something like that. But yeah, it's sad. Hopefully, we can get Rian back more, and we'll bring him back slowly but surely. But you
Yeah,
know what's going to happen? Someone else is going to get injured at some point, and we're going to have to throw him in there and put loads of pressure
yeah,
on. But the thing is, Daniel Jebison injured, Traore not really fancied anymore. It doesn't seem. Will
no,
Asula back in the under 21s. I hope we don't have to. I'd rather play Will Asula from the start 100% than rush Rian back when he's not at it. Because actually, I thought that Will Asula put in a really, really good shift at the start of the season. But anyway, let's move on from that. Lots and lots of negativity. We apologise. Lots of people in the comments of videos and stuff. It's always negative. It's always negative. But at the moment, there's not a hell of a lot of positive things that we can
no,
talk about. But what we can do, Ollie, is
Nick.
do the quiz.
The quiz, and
Quiz.
not what's really funny is Nick that we're going to move away from the negativity to today's themed quiz
Oh
of
God.
teams that have lost by 8 or more goals in the Premier League.
Wait a second. So right, I'll give you a little bit of something here. I gave Ollie free reign to do the quiz this week, and every week I give Ollie a Sheffield United themed quiz. Are you going to talk about Sheffield United at all in this quiz?
Last week, Sheffield United lost by 8 goals in the Premier League. Including United, 8 teams have lost by 8 or more goals. It's happened 10 times, but some teams have done it more than once. Who are the teams that have lost by 8 or more in the Premier League? And can you remember any of those games?
Right. Okay. How many have I got? How many have I got to
So there's
get?
8 teams to get. If you want bonus points, tell me which teams have done it twice.
Right, okay. Do I have to name all 8?
Name as many as you can. I'll
Right,
say that
okay,
you win if you can name 5. That's a fair one.
So, all right, okay. So, Sheff United. Am I allowed to say Sheff United?
I've already given you Sheffield United, but fine, you can have
All right.
Sheffield
I'll take that
United.
one away. Bournemouth
Yes.
last season.
Lost 9-0 to
Southampton.
Liverpool. Yes.
Yeah,
Done it
Southampton.
twice.
Twice, right. So that's that one. Are we talking just Premier League?
Yes.
Barnsley.
No.
Did
I
Barnsley not
believe
lose 9?
8-1.
I thought they lost 9-0 to Man United.
No, that wasn't Barnsley. That was somebody else.
Are you sure?
1995, it wasn't Barnsley.
Must have been the 8-1 I'm thinking of then.
Well, we've talked about... Surely there's one team you can remember. They lost 8-0 to Newcastle.
Oh, God. Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday. No, but they
Sheffield
lost 8-1,
Wednesday.
didn't they?
No, Wednesday lost 8-0.
Oh, no, that was Man City. There's so many of these 8 scorelines going round on Twitter at the moment. Right, okay, thank you. Where were you pointing then? Were you pointing to Hillsborough? Is Hillsborough that way?
To be honest, Hillsborough's not that way. But I just thought that's like neighbours, innit? Like them lot.
Yeah. Right,
Like
okay.
them lot.
Did Derby get hammered in that season?
No.
Oh, come on, Derby.
If I remember
help me
correctly,
out.
not many of these teams actually ended up getting relegated.
Yeah, because
yeah,
Southampton, when they got hammered against Leicester, they didn't. They finished like 11th or something like that, which I thought was incredible.
Well, they did it twice.
Sometimes
and stayed up both times. Bournemouth did it and stayed up.
Oh my God, I don't know. You've proper thrown me under a bus here. Give me some Sheff United questions. Don't give me some. Oh right.
Premier League, Nick. This is football heritage.
Rubbish. I don't watch the Premier League when we're not in it, so I don't like it. It's horrible.
So there's a team that lost 9-1. Jermaine Defoe scored 5, if I remember correctly, in the game.
I don't know. Blackpool?
Wigan. Wigan got done 9-1 at Tottenham, and then the next season got done 8-0 at Chelsea.
I remember Wigan now. Why did you have to tell me? I'd have got there in an hour.
Yeah. The one you were thinking of,
is this the only question that I'm getting for the quiz?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're not doing quiz again, Ollie. I'm telling you right now, you're not doing quiz again.
Themed quiz, Nick. Themed
right,
quiz.
Okay. So when I do a quiz, I give you 5 questions. I give you 4 possible answers.
Yeah.
And you've just, and they're all about Sheff United. What have you done to me here?
Giving you a nice themed quiz to get 10
It's not nice.
answers,
it's
points
not nice.
coming through. I've not put you under pressure and made you go, how well do you know your own team, Nick? Hey?
How well do you know the team that you know the most about?
Yeah. What is the answer? Okay. I don't know my own team very well at all.
Right, okay. So how many more have I got to get?
So you've not got 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I don't know.
So
no, it can't be Preston. They've not been in Premier League.
They've not.
Oh my
God. When
God.
you said about
Ipswich.
Man U, there you go. Man U beat Ipswich 9-0, not Barnsley.
Okay. I give up.
Watford lost 8-0 to Manchester City, which they seem to do every year for a few years.
Was that in the semi-final?
No, they lost 6-0 in the FA Cup final and then lost 8-0 in the league. And Aston Villa lost 8-0 to Chelsea when Mourinho came back and Chelsea got 100 points. Or 100 goals. Yeah. You've enjoyed that, Nick,
thanks.
I can tell.
Thanks for that, Ollie. I really
Do you want to tell me what United's biggest Premier League defeats are? Is that more fun for you? The next
United's
4?
So
we've got Newcastle 8-0. What are the next 4 on that list?
I remember most of the ones when I watched football, which was under Warnock and under Wilder, and obviously Hecky. So I can throw out there.
One from before that time. There's one from 06-07, 2 from 2021, and 1 from 93-94.
Right, so we lost to Arsenal 6-0 in a cup game when they put out all the youngsters, and I think Carlos Vela scored an hat-trick or something like that.
He did indeed.
We had a
Can I
full
correct
strength.
myself though?
Go on.
Premier League rather than
Oh, sorry.
rather than
I think
including
you
clubs.
I think you actually said that, so you don't need to correct yourself. I just misheard or didn't
You
want
are
to
right
hear
though
that.
in that that's a worse defeat than any of these because that was 6-0 and Carlos Vela did get a hat-trick and it was terrible.
And we basically put out a full strength side, and they put out all the kids.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Good time.
we lost 5-0 to Spurs, and Gareth Bale scored a hat trick.
Spurs, when Gareth Bale scored a hat-trick, is on there, but it wasn't 5-0.
6-0.
4-0.
Oh, 4-0. I thought it was 5. Oh my god, we probably did a watch on for that.
Somebody did do us 5-0 that year.
Leicester, because that was
Leicester.
Hecky's first game, wasn't it? Illiman's
It
first
was.
game as well. What else have I got?
So you've got one from 06-07 and one from 93-94. Both are 4-0 away defeats.
I'm not going to get the one from the 90s. The one from the
Newcastle.
Warnock era. I think that's probably, it's not Man United, because we went close with them in the away game, and the home game was like 2-0 or 2-1 or something like that. Who was it? Was it Liverpool?
It was
Was it
indeed Liverpool.
4-0?
We got done 4-0 at Anfield that season. And the one that you weren't going to get was Newcastle away in 93-94, where under Kevin Keegan, they also did us 4-0. And there you have it.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I think I was 6 then, and I wasn't really the fanatic that I am now. Anyway,
For what it's worth,
let's
Nick,
move on from
I
the
weren't
quiz.
born then. Don't remember it at all.
You weren't born. No. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
That's when it happened. I was born about 6 months later. But there you go. I can tell how much you've enjoyed this version of the quiz, and I'm sure Nick will be back to be your quiz master for all future iterations, or we'll have some guest quiz master, and I will not be asked back.
Yeah. I just thought that you knew the protocol for the quiz, that it's 5 questions, 4 possible answers. And that's
Like,
how
I
you
thought,
give.
we can branch out. We're 7 episodes in. I thought, I know Nick's gonna love this. We'll branch it out a little bit. I'll ask him topical questions about big defeats on the back of the Newcastle game.
That was
He's gonna
fun.
really enjoy himself.
Right. So I'm trying to think how we can swing this round in a positive way. So let's talk about the fact that everybody's thinking that Hecky's going to get sacked.
Yay! Ooh, positive.
What is there that's positive right now? What can you think of that's positive?
There's an international break coming up.
Yeah, and we're notoriously good after the international break as well, aren't we?
Makes a real difference. Yeah, we'll be fantastic when we come back from that international break. Hopefully. In fact, actually, it's a game on Sky as well. So, it's a guaranteed performance from United that after an international break on Sky. But no, you're right. There's not loads of positivity at the moment. And it's because, obviously, things on the pitch have just taken such a turn that it's hard to really find the areas that you can go, yes, let's stick my hat on that and say that is going well. But you know what? Let's actually just give a call to a little bit of calm around Heckingbottom, because you're right. There's been the rumours about him moving on. And I don't know about you, but I just think it's daft. I think, I understand everybody's frustrations, and I am just as frustrated as everybody else is. I'm sure it came over when I was talking about the game earlier that I've just had enough of watching us not be competitive, and particularly after the Newcastle game, embarrass ourselves, because we've got to be better than that. But let's look at it from the perspective of the start of this season. I think everybody agreed we were probably going to get relegated. We came into the league. You want to try and prove a point, but ultimately, with our budget, with everything else that's been going on around the club, we were never really going to be good enough. So this season needs to be entirely centered around the fact that we're now not going to be in a financially difficult position when we get relegated. We will have more money when we go down than we had when we came up. We're not spending silly, so we're not going to be stuck in one of these payment plans where we're constantly trying to pay off previous things. So that's a positive that last season we got promoted whilst having a financial mess. We are not going to have that going forwards. We've got a manager who got us promoted despite all of the challenges and everything else going on around the club last season. And yes, it's frustrating. And yes, it's really, really hard. But we have to keep him because he's shown that he's got the right attitude to try and get us back, to turn us around when things are at their most bleak. Because he came in when Wilder left, and things were unbelievably bleak. We've just referenced the Leicester game that was embarrassing in the quiz. But after that, we got better. And actually, he got a few wins on the board, got a few points on the board. And the end of that season, we weren't as embarrassing as we had been for the first 9 months. We then get Slavin and have an awful season where he's just running us into the ground with boring football that none of the fans want to watch and nobody's having fun. Turned it around, gets us to the playoffs, gets us promoted. He can take us from the bottom and rework us. So let's give him the opportunity to do that. We're all going to be frustrated. We're all going to have to, a little bit, swallow our pride this season and accept that it isn't going to be very good. But unless we have more embarrassing days like Newcastle, if every game is 1-0, 2-1, 2-0, that for me should be enough to keep Hecky in a job because our team just isn't good enough. We might think that we can get more out of him. We might think another manager could get a new manager bounce and get us an extra 6 points. But we're still going to go down because we're not quite good enough. But that's fine. We have to accept that. We have to take the money, rebuild. Numerous teams have done it in the past. You take the money, you get better. Let's us be the next team that do it. Take the money, get better, come back in a much better position to be able to go again. And I think Hecky's the man to do it. And so I think we need to stop talking about his job and actually just back the man and say, yes, he's our man. He's the owner's man, he's the staff's man, he's the player's man. He should be the fans' man as well.
Yeah, yeah. And having spoken to Prince Abdullah, he loves Hecky. He absolutely loves Hecky. But I think sometimes fans going on and on and on about replacing, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing fans talking about Hecky should be sacked. And I think that if we'd have lost 2-0 against Newcastle, no one's
Nobody was
no
talking about
one's
it.
no one's talking about it.
Nope.
I think the weird thing was the Wilder rumours came after the Spurs game, and actually we put up a really, really good fight against Spurs. So that happening, that must have rocked the dressing room a little bit as well. I know Hecky is a fantastic speaker, and he won't have let that show that it's bothered him, but it might have bothered him. It really could have. But yeah, I think the thing is like I don't think we will bring in a manager that will be any better. To be perfectly honest, Hecky knows the players. The players will want to fight for Hecky because he's a great bloke and they all like him. You can tell that. So yeah, let's see how it goes. I honestly do think that if we carry on in this vein, he will get sacked at some point because that's just the way of football. There's no way that a manager has 3 points on the board from 15, 16, 17 games and stays in a job, unfortunately, these days.
No, there ain't.
Fortunately, I don't know, whatever way you want to look at it. But yeah, I don't see anybody right now that we could either afford or will come in and do as good a job as Hecky. There might be a little bit of a bounce, but at the same time, I don't want a little bit of a bounce. What I want is us to have a manager that's going to stay around for a while. I don't want us to do what Leeds did and let's bring in Sam Allardyce for a few games. Let's bring in whoever else because it's just firefighting. It's not building. It's not a plan. It's not a set plan that's like, right, we're bringing him in because we know this is what he's got on his CV. He's going to build us to this. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. You're just bringing someone in who's been there and done that, but isn't there anymore. Sam Allardyce was never going to keep Leeds up last season. And really, he just did it for a payday. And if we bring in someone like that, they'll just be interested in a payday. And that's the thing. So let's stick with Hecky. Let's not give him stick. Let's just see what comes of the next few games because there will be more pressure on him. But I'm just sick of fans just giving him all this stick. He's 7 games into the Premier League. 7 games. No one sacks a manager after 7 games. Like, you need to give him a little bit more time. You just do. And we've, like you say, we've not got the team. We've probably not got the team that Hecky wanted, to be honest. We needed a bit more strength in depth. We know that. A few of the players coming off the bench, like Slimani looks okay. Tom Davis, I think, will get better, but needs more game time. We've got some players to bring on, but we need injuries. Players that were injured and are injured, we need them back. We need to not keep picking up injuries like Egan did at the weekend. We just need to put some points on the board, but more importantly, put some performances in.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If we can see them turn up, be competitive, and actually just challenge, then that'll be enough. That's what we need to see. We need to see a performance, because what is it now? Since we last scored, we've conceded 12, I think, if you include the end of the Tottenham game. So we just need to actually get out there, put in a competitive performance, score a goal, and see what we can do. Because, yeah, like you say, if this carries on and it goes on for 15 games, then fair enough, then the questions come, and that's reasonable. I just don't think it's that time yet, and I don't think we need to be talking about it, and I don't think there's anybody else to come in. Who do we get? Who comes to United at this day? You know what I mean? You look at where we're at now, look at where we are in the league, look at the players we've got. Who'd take that job? I genuinely don't know the answer to that question. I don't know who's out there who thinks, oh yeah, that'd be a good career move.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Who wants? I'm not saying that we're going to get relegated, but as of right now, we look in the best place to get relegated alongside Luton and Burnley, probably right now, even though Luton's just picked up 3 points. Yeah. So who's going to want to come to someone and be like, yeah, I fancy getting a relegation on my CV? They're just not. And if we had, if it was an Everton or a team like that they think, actually, there's some players there that I can do some really good work with, then fair enough. But it's a ragtag bunch of players that aren't Premier League proven and don't have a lot of Premier League experience. We've got a few good players that I think on another season we start well. We get, if we got these players together at the right time for that Palace game, we could have beaten Palace. We could have got a draw against Forest, or we could have beaten them. We could have started off really well and we would have been fine. But right now, things have not gone right for us. We didn't recruit properly. I think we tried to do it on a shoestring budget and bring in young, hungry players, but just aren't ready. And I think you've got to look at it sometimes and think we do need Premier League experience, and we just didn't have it. And don't get me wrong, Gus Harmer, I think he's a fantastic player. I think Sousa is. We're bringing in these players that I think are Premier League players, Premier League talent, but not a lot else around them. And I'm really disappointed in the defence. I really, really am, because I thought I were on the overlap and I was like, we've got a good defence, we've got a good keeper, we just need to sort out the stuff that's in front. And actually, that's what's let us down this season. It's really disappointing because I love Egan. I think Egan's a fantastic defender. He's had a bad start to the season. So has Anel. And even Hecky was like, oh, and we're really happy with Anel for the start of this season. I'm like, oh, yeah. And the thing is, I thought from last season that Anel wasn't the best defender, but he made up for that going forward. We just we've not done that this season. Anel's barely got forward this season.
For me, that's what we're missing, because we've got no control in midfield. That's, it's the defence have obviously had problems, and they're making stupid mistakes, which is costing us goals. And we saw that particularly obviously in the game against Newcastle. But actually, you could say for both goals against Spurs, you can say it for the goals that we conceded yesterday or Saturday, I suppose, as you watch this. But the midfield is just putting them on a hiding to nothing. Like, if we can't get the ball, our defenders are defending for 90 minutes. Like, there is no break. It's just constant pressure for 90 minutes. Like, you're going to make those mistakes in there as well. So I think whilst the defence have got to do better, and they've got to be better, undoubtedly, because they are not playing anywhere near the standard we thought they'd be able to, we've actually got to get more out of our midfield. And I have to admit, I think if we're playing if we're playing McBurney and Archer up front and 3 in midfield, I do not think that there's a place for James McAtee. I think it's got to be Norwood, Sousa, Harmer, because I just don't think that with McAtee in there, we've got enough strength or enough capability to actually want to defend. I think it means that we limit what we can get from Harmer, so we're not getting the most out of him. And we're putting too much pressure on Sousa to do all the defending himself. We need Norwood and Sousa next to each other so both of them can do their share of the defending. We need Harmer to be able to get forward to create the chances and break away to try and do a little bit more in the link with McBurney and Archer. And so I think for me, I think the midfield is as much of an issue as the defence, because they're just anonymous in most games. And we need to find a way to get our midfield to actually be part of the game. And I think the way we do that is that McAtee has to go and sit on bench for a bit, and it has to be Norwood that comes in. And that's nothing against McAtee personally. Not at all. Thought actually at moments against Newcastle, he was our brightest player, where he was the only one running at their defence, creating chances, doing anything. But I just think with him there, he completely disrupts what we've got in our midfield. And actually, I thought Harmer, Sousa, Norwood was starting to look quite good before we disrupted that 3.
Agreed. Everton. I thought they were really good against Everton, and we created quite a bit. And the thing is, yeah, we might end up going with like what you've just said, but at the same time, I feel like if we did play McAtee, you got to play him just off McBurney, and maybe
Yeah,
Archer sits on the bench and comes on
agreed.
as a bit of a super sub. And the thing is, we've got nothing on the bench really to come on and change the game. So if you've got McAtee on the bench, or you've got McBurney on the bench, or you've got Archer on the bench to come on and change something, then I'm happier with that. But there's so many boo boys in regards to Norwood that it
Yeah,
feels like sometimes it's like I, I feel like you've said it before. Sousa's the destroyer, and then you've got Norwood that picks the
right.
passes that defends like figures out where he needs to be on the pitch. Sousa's running around, getting stuck
Yeah,
in and stuff like that. Norwood's kind of sitting back, having a look at the pitch and trying to figure things out. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think we should replace Hecky now. You as the manager, obviously, and me as
yeah,
Stuart
yeah.
McCall with the
Well,
being the
all,
Ginger Ninja.
all I can say is that I have been since the age of what 7, 8. I have been preparing myself for this using the greatest, simulations available to ensure that I understood how to pick up a team in this kind of situation to be able to drive them forwards. And if I found out anything from my epic performance with Kettering Town last season, it's that I am actually now ready to step up to the big time because Football Manager can only take you so far. So actually, I am here and available. I think Hecky is the right man, but if we do decide to change, I'm obviously second in command.
Good man, good man. Anyway, let's leave it there. Let's leave it on a little bit of a light note because it has been heavily negative. We apologise for that, but we just can't help it right now. It's just how it is. Like, we've got to talk about things.
We
And if we
will.
don't talk about these things, we're going to have to talk about like Barbie or talk about McBusted or Busted or that heavy metal
I,
band that
I'm,
you were on
I'm
about
fine with
earlier.
that. I'm fine with that. If anybody wants
I
to
know
find out
you
more
are.
about Necrogoblicon, please do drop me a DM because I'm always open and I can send you numerous pictures of the goblin. John Goblicon, if anybody wanted to know his name.
Fantastic. Right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ole. It's great to talk to you. It's great to have you back off holiday. And we'll try and do another podcast next week.
Cheers, guys.